Hello and welcome back to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast. My name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since '96, and you are now listening and watching my post-match reaction podcast. And it's the second leg of the Europa League last 16, where Arsenal have lost against Olympiacos 1-0 at the Emirates, but on aggregate they find themselves through into the quarterfinals. So they'll be in the draw tomorrow. They'll be in the hat. For those of you that are listening to this the day after, we're obviously totally unaware of who's going to be, what the draw is going to be. We know who are in the draw, but before we go into all of that, I just want to welcome a guest of ours. We have another guest. That's right. It's Stephen Kuntoru. I know I've completely murdered your last name there.
I've heard far worse, mate. That's literally not probably 95% perfect there, man. Well done.
Is it Steve Kuntoru?
It close, like actually that? Even close. It's well, I mean, English wise, you'd say Konturu. In Greek, it'd be Kunduru. So pick your poison. I've heard. Oh, honestly, I've heard complete botch jobs of my surname before as well. So don't worry.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure to have you on the show once again. You were here last week after the first leg. We had a good old chinwag about that, and you're back here today as a good sport, despite losing, to discuss the second leg. So thank you very much for coming on. First things first, how are you feeling? Obviously, your team are out of the Europa League. What are the immediate sort of emotions?
Well, I probably don't need as much therapy as I did last week after the first leg result. I'm really proud of my team. You know, like we came out. There were periods where you dominated. Some of the chances you guys, we'll get into it further, obviously, but some of the chances you guys didn't put away. There were times we looked like we were going to lose that game, but we stuck it out. We took the chance that we got. We kept the clean sheet as well, which we haven't done in Europe since the first game of the Champions League group stage of this season. So really big positives to take from this game. You know, the way we set up kept us a lot more solid as well. So, it's a shame that we go out at this stage, because I feel like there was, despite you guys being obviously the superior side on paper, I felt like there was a chance for us to possibly go to the quarterfinals when we first drew you guys. But ultimately, that's not what happened. And so I'm happy for you guys. You know, you guys dug deep and deserved the tie overall. And we go out doing as well as we did last season, which is great for consistency reasons. And we now just can look forward to retaining the title and retaining the Greek Cup.
Yeah, and you also look forward to another Champions League season. Is that what happens when you win the Greek? When you win the Greek,
it's qualifiers. I'm afraid, mate. It's qualifiers. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So first round. If we win the title, because I won't say when, because you know, despite the lead, I don't preempt anything. If we win the title, it's first round qualifiers from the Champions League, which will obviously be good enough to go through. You know, certainly to the group stage. But it's a long old season for us when we have to go through the qualifying process.
Well, look, I think your team is good enough to go through at least past the qualifying rounds. Obviously, look, we'll get into the game itself. I'm going to give my immediate reaction to that loss. It's a bittersweet feeling, because although next round, and although it's not a performance to be proud of, I think what's really helped is the immediate aftermath of the game, watching our arch rivals get absolutely slaughtered in Croatia. So look, the facts are here. It is 100% confirmed that Tottenham will not be in the draw for the quarterfinals, and I think there's just nothing better to see your rivals get beaten after being 2-0 up on aggregate, to be expected to go through. And look, I've been hearing it all week from Tottenham fans. I was, unfortunately, sat down to do a live with two of the most deluded, I have to say, fans I've ever come across, talking about how much they will beat us on the weekend, and then how much they're counting on winning the Europa League, etc., etc. But so the feeling was definitely it was quite a no Arsenal fan can be happy watching that performance. Like you said, there were aspects of that game where we dominated. I think the first half was something to be proud of. I think this game was always going to be a game of game management from the manager, from the players. Ultimately, they failed that in the second half. But like I say, after the game, when you realize that Tottenham are well and truly in the mud, 3-0 down, out and buried. Who else is through to the next round? You got Granada, who are through to the next round.
Yeah,
Roma,
Dynamo Zagreb now.
Yeah, Zagreb are through. Slavia Prague as well. That's a big one. Villarreal, obviously, and Ajax. Yeah, Rangers are out. So look, the only British teams that are left are Arsenal and United. So I mean, I guess the only good thing about Tottenham being out, even Rangers, is that the oppositions are looking a little bit rosier, but it's always it's never really the case until you play the two legs. And we only need to look back at what happened last year and even today in this game. So look, let's get straight into the game itself, because going into it, I think the attitude was and the expectations was that Olympiacos were going to have a real go. We were going to do everything in our power to try and stop them. And if they turned up any sort of way that they did last year, if they came up with the type of energy, the attitude, then they could be in with a chance. I mean, I watched a video on YouTube, I think, of an Olympiacos sports journalist who is quite close to the camp, and he was talking to Harry Simeo. I don't know if you're familiar with Harry Simeo. He's Greek as well, but he's more of an Arsenal correspondent. And he was just saying
he followed me on Twitter recently, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Harry's obviously a long life Arsenal fan. He's been doing a lot of great work over the years as well, correspondent, and he was saying how Olympiacos will try and get the early goal in the first half and then take it from there, keep pressing, play a high line, play a dominant style of football, but also be wary of what Arsenal's threat to hit them on a counter-attack. And I fully expected that. I fully expected Olympiacos to go into that first half and really have us on the back foot, really force Arsenal to sit back and try and control the shape, try and control our own shape, and try and preserve as much as possible, because you guys were going to throw numbers at us. I was quite surprised that wasn't the case. But before we get into the game, let's have a quick chat about the starting lineup. I'll give my sort of brief first impressions on both teams, and then you can do the same. So
Sure.
In terms of Arsenal's first starting lineup, look, I was pleasantly surprised with Arteta was going. We often forget that Arteta is a very calculated manager. He's very clever, and he does things. Everything he does is for a specific reason, whether it's playing Xhaka, Elneny, and Ceballos in the same team, or whether it's playing Smith Rowe and Odegaard together like he did against Spurs. So when I saw Elneny, Xhaka, and Ceballos starting in the same lineup, I was a little bit surprised, and I couldn't tell whether it was something that I was taking quite pleasantly or whether it was something that I was quite worried about, because I haven't seen Ceballos play in that number 10 role this season. But I was quietly optimistic, because I could tell that Arteta was doing everything to make sure that we were safe. We secured ourselves at the back with David Luiz, Gabriel, Tierney, Bellerin as well. That's a strong back four. And obviously, you had Pepe, Aubameyang, and Smith Rowe to then bomb forward when they got the opportunity. I was a little bit confused why Smith Rowe was playing, because of the fact that he's just come back from injury, because of the fact that we've got West Ham on the weekend, and also because of the fact that he's going to be playing a lot of games for England in the coming week. And Aubameyang up front, for me, it was I was glad to see him back on the team sheet, but I know he doesn't play well up front by himself. I know his best position's on the left-hand side out wide. But I also knew that today was going to be a game where he was going to be up for it and he was going to be um there was something to prove today for him, especially having been dropped out of the North London derby, this whole saga going on with Mikel Arteta. This was going to be the best sort of comeback game for him. He didn't make anything of it. But in terms of Olympiacos, um, I was quite impressed with the start. I don't know how, maybe I'm deluded and I don't know anything about Olympiacos, but look, you had Socrates and Bar at the back. You didn't play Villa at the back. You played him in his preferred position in central midfield. Masouras, El Arabi, Fortunis for me is a really good front three, especially Fortunis. You know, he's I know his ability to play El Arabi in the box. I know his creative capacity in that role. Camera in midfield as well to support Mvia. Holebas at the back. I don't know whether Holebas is your preferred centre back.
See, this is the thing. This was a weird setup for us because I think the only time we played something similar where we played like a sort of 5/3 at the back was when we played City at home in the group stage, and at that time. We had a lot of players injured, so we didn't have a registered striker fully fit through a mixture of injuries and COVID. And so Fortunis was playing as a false nine. It didn't really work, mainly because it's Man City, but also because Fortunis isn't a false nine. He is at heart and in terms of his qualities, an attacking midfielder number 10. And today we started a very similar formation to how we did against City, with having three centre backs. Holebas, who's obviously naturally a left back, playing as that left centre back, and I thought he did a fairly decent job. Yeah. Overall, he did really well, despite his age. And then the midfield two of Mvia and Bar were fairly lively as well. It was great, and like you said, oh thank goodness Mvia played a holding mid where he is best, because it really showed this time. Masouras is. He had a mixed game. He played better than he did against you guys in the first leg. He got the assists for El Arabi in the second leg, but there's still a lot of moments in the game where he drops and he falls away. But I know why he's there. He's there because he isn't a pacey like kind of inside winger like Bruma is. He's more of a sort of hardworking up and down the pitch, supporting the fullback kind of player, and that's where he shines. His work rate and effort cannot be denied. It's just his quality at certain periods of the game, especially in the final third, can be quite questionable. Sometimes he can put them away, sometimes he just can't. And Fortunis up there as well. Fortunis, the problem with him at times was that when he's put on the wing like he tends to drift in more into the middle where he would normally be as a number 10. And so that would then leave Reabchuk on the left-hand side a bit exposed. That didn't happen so much today. But you could see, again, he flitted in and out of the game as well, but we can get into that later. But I was a bit nervous about this formation because we haven't used it a lot, if at all, previously. And so I wasn't sure how useful it would be to play something that, yes, would make us more solid, but in terms of our productivity, I felt like it would be a lot less productivity from us. But and at first it seemed that way. And like the first kind of 20, 30 minutes, you guys were I feel like you guys were ahead in the game compared to us. You had a couple of really good chances. We had that one chance, obviously, from El Arabi, who probably should have put it away, but fantastic save from Leno. And I think overall, now that we used that formation and it worked to a sense, I'm glad that we used it.
And what about Semedo? I know he's one of your star centre backs. Is he still injured, or what's the?
He is, yeah. He's still injured. I don't quite remember when he's coming back. I think it's in a week or so. I think he'll be back. Whether he fully starts again remains to be seen. But he will play fairly soon. I imagine he'll be rested until after the international break because he hasn't been called up by Portugal. So he'll be fit by then, I imagine.
Okay. And so tell me what you made of the Arsenal starting lineup, because I mean, I'm quite interested to hear actually from an Olympiacos fan's point of view. You're obviously going into this game. Actually, tell me what your your expectations were going into this game, and then how you felt after the starting lineups were revealed.
My expectation was more or less what I saw from you guys, and I'm almost glad that you guys at least didn't like took us seriously, because I really didn't want you guys. It sounds weird coming from the opposite team, because in reality I really want you guys to play a backup team, which would make it easy for us, despite some of your backups still being very good. But I wanted you guys to take it seriously, because we should be taken seriously as Olympiacos. And for the most part, I felt that. The only thing, I was surprised that you guys didn't start Thomas Partey. I wasn't sure if that was due to injuries or anything. Yeah, I thought it was strange that El Neni started. I know he scored against us, but I was surprised that he got the nod over Partey. And I weirdly also expected Willian to start, because Willian is so good at for you guys for those set pieces and corners. And I felt like if that's the weakest part of our game, then you should play him, or at least bring him off the bench. I don't know if you guys did bring Willian off the bench. I must have missed it if you guys did, but no. Yeah, I'm surprised by that. But other than that, the lineup was more or less what I expected. And I was a little bit glad Ceballos was on the pitch, because I felt like if we were going to get a crucial mistake made by an Arsenal player on the pitch, it would be Ceballos. And lo and behold, it happened.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, look, I have to say from an Arsenal fan's point of view, we sort of expected Mikel to go for a strong starting lineup, but one that was best suited for this game. So I was a little bit surprised not to see Partey, because if you want to dominate a game, and if you want to try and preserve everything that you worked hard for in the first leg, you'd play someone like Partey, who controls the midfield, who ultimately controls the pace of the game. But I understand why he didn't. I mean, against Spurs, he was absolutely shattered. He looked a shadow of himself in the last 20 minutes of that game. So, and playing Xhaka and El Neni in the middle there, if you play both of them, you're sort of morph them together and you get Thomas Partey. So it wasn't such a terrible thing. And also, they had a really good performance in that first half. But yeah, as you say, I mean, Ceballos and Bellerin for me were the only worrying links in that team. If there was going to be mistakes, if you guys were going to get a slip of an opportunity, it was going to come from those two. So look, let's get into the game. Obviously, that you're 3-1 down. The expectations are that you're going to start the half pretty strong. What are your assessments of that first half?
I hoped that we'd start the half stronger, because unfortunately in Europe, maybe with the exception of the first leg against PSV, we have tended to start games fairly slowly in Europe and allowed the other team to get a bit more possession and kind of test us a bit more than we've tested them. And unfortunately, that numerous occasions have led to us conceding in the first 10, 15 minutes or so, which is obviously the worst thing that could happen in this particular situation. But thankfully that didn't happen. I think it did take us about half an hour or so to grow into the game. And then by then, I think we had about maybe a 10, 15 minute period past the half hour mark where we started to play better. I think the El Arabi shot that was well saved by Leno, I think, was the turning point in that sense. And we started to see more of the ball. And you guys had a couple of fantastic chances as well. I remember the Pepe chance as well, which I think it took a nick off of Socrates and it just went wide. If we conceded something like that, I would not have been happy. But yeah, I think it was a very slow first half for both teams overall. I think you guys dominated the ball more. You had a couple more chances than us to maybe put yourselves ahead and put the tie to bed, but it just felt a bit sluggish at times. I think sometimes it was our nervousness playing against us, and then you guys got a bit nervous. So it was just which team would get more nervous in the first half and make the mistake first.
Yeah, look, I mean, when I was watching home, so I just finished work, so I didn't actually get the opportunity to sit down on my sofa and be all comfy and actually fully focus on the first half. Bless my wife, she was watching the game for me and tweeting on my behalf so I can make some mental notes. But I clearly remember from that first half, Arsenal were very, very comfortable, and that's something that I was very pleasantly surprised to see. Arteta clearly gave the boys the instructions to dominate that first half, to be the first to loose balls. And, you know, the moment I saw Aubameyang starting to pick up loose balls from deep in midfield was the moment I knew that Arsenal were there to try and end the tie in that first half, not to give you guys the time or space to grow into the game. But unfortunately, you know, Arsenal being Arsenal, wasting the opportunities that we did, ultimately that did lead to Olympiacos growing back into the game. First 10 minutes for me, really, really bright. Just the attitude, you know, you can always tell in the first few minutes of a game how a team's going to set up and what the first half is, or what the first 25-30 minutes is going to most likely unfold. And so when I'm seeing the Arsenal team pressing and not necessarily playing a high line or being risky, but it was very reminiscent to how we played against Tottenham, where the moment you guys got a goal kick or the moment that the ball was deep in your half, Pepe, Aubameyang, Smith-Rowe, or Ceballos were so deep, pressing so high, putting you under pressure. And I think there were a few opportunities. There were a few times early on in that half where you were forced to kick the ball out, or an Arsenal player would get lucky to pick up the ball loose in the middle of the midfield. But look, they were, like you say, there were amples of opportunities for Arsenal to be 1-0 up. There is the Aubameyang opportunity. I mean, my God, the Aubameyang opportunities in the second half are criminal as to why, you know, compared to the first half ones.
Honestly, I think the last one he absolutely, I couldn't believe he missed that. I fully expect. I was just gearing myself. Okay, this is the equalizer. This is it, and I couldn't. I honestly, and not just him though. There was just certain chances that you got inside the box, and I just thought, wow, like that's it. And then it wasn't even Jose Sarr making a fantastic save, which I will get into later because I thought his performance was really, really good. But yeah, you guys just couldn't put them away. Like it's like you got your foot too much under the ball, and it would just completely sky part over the crossbar. And I was very surprised at Arsenal's finishing in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why opposition fans watching that game might be surprised, but for an Arsenal fan, this was a normal day in the office. This was Arsenal getting 2 or 3 really good opportunities, 1-on-1 on goal. You talk about the first opportunity when Ceballos slots it into Aubameyang. You know, he's pretty much 1-on-1 of the keeper, and he just takes a wild shot at it. And I think that not only the performance, but just the general sort of attitude and the way the boys were feeling. I think everyone was quite tense. We knew that we were 3-1 up. We knew that this was merely a game that we just needed to see out. And some of the finishes, like the first one, really rash, what ultimately just showed that, you know, they just wanted to sort of run through the motions and get through it. But you know, and then Olympiacos start to grow into the game, and credit to them because they're patient, they wait, and when they get their opportunity, they almost make it count with a lovely route one ball over the. I think it might have been just offside. Had he scored, obviously it would have went to VAR, and VAR would have decided whether it was onside or offside, but. It did look a smidge offside, but I have to say, you know, brilliant save from Pepe. That was the warning shots from then that Arsenal needed to start burying these opportunities because, you know, you guys were the longer the game went on. 2 things: the longer the game went on, Olympiacos were going to get back into it. They were going to grow stronger, and also the tie was going to be slipping out of your hands, so you would have resorted to desperate measures anyways. So look, the first half is done. It's 0-0. As an Arsenal fan, I'm fairly happy. I'm fairly comfortable and confident that we're going to see the tie out because we dominated that first half, and because ultimately the game was being managed perfectly. Because I feel like the moments that Olympiacos were dominant in were the moments where Arsenal decided to sit off and decided to almost let you guys play football in our half. But I feel like it's almost naive and a bit arrogant of Arsenal to play that kind of way, because it's almost sending that the type of message where they're saying, well, we know we're in the lead in this game, we know we're the more dominant side in this game, so we're going to step off and we're going to allow you to play some football. And ultimately it did cost them in the second second half. But yeah, look, as an Arsenal fan, really happy with the first half performance because we were doing exactly what we needed to do, see the game out. Just a bit disappointed that we weren't taking the opportunities. As an Olympiacos fan, what were your thoughts going into the second half?
Well, I mean, I already came into the game thinking this, but I just felt it kind of reaffirmed to me, it's more or less over. It's a big ask for us to get three in the space of 45 minutes. We'd have to have a massive bit of luck, like maybe perhaps you guys going down to 10 men, for example, or just something, just like all. And obviously that's not something realistic to pray for when it comes to football. So yeah, I kind of felt like while I was happy with how we grew into the game, I felt there were just so many periods where we just looked a bit. I don't know. We looked like we felt nervous playing the system, and then also we just certain passes like that were just gate 7. Hello guys. Yeah, we just seemed a bit kind of static at times. I think it may be just the formation again. I will come back to that. It's just that it's not something we're entirely used to. And I just felt like there were certain passes that were so much more obvious that they didn't try, and they tried something a bit too complicated, and it wasn't necessary. So some of the passes that we made, and I honestly, the best moment for me was the attempt on goal, like the ball from Jose Sarr to go straight to El Arabi. Like that's FIFA levels of passing from Jose Sarr, and it was fantastic. And like you said, there's a possibility if we'd scored, it may have been pulled back for offside. And this isn't anything on you guys, but knowing our luck in Europe with VAR, it probably would. Sorry, it probably would have. But yeah, just a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, I felt like we were probably going out anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of attitude and that mindset, especially from the Arsenal players. I mean, I can only imagine the Arsenal players were probably thinking the same thing. Almost cost us in the second half. And I mean, you came out all guns blazing in the second half, and the first few minutes ultimately showed us the intent of what you guys were, what the intentions were, what you were trying to establish. And it doesn't take very long before El Arabi scores. But let's just quickly touch on before he scores, the opening 10 minutes. I mean, I have to say, as an Arsenal fan, I'm obviously really worried to see Olympiacos playing with such attacking prowess, playing with such aggression as well going forward. But there was an opportunity early on in the second half where I'm gonna pull up the team lineup because I'm terrible with names. I think it was Fortunis who is.
Yes, I know what decision you're gonna say. Yes, I know. It was when he tried to square it, and there was about 4 Arsenal players in front of it. Oh, he's gone.
No, it's fine. My camera does that sometimes. It just turns off itself.
I was just like, it's my stream now. I'm gonna just talk about it. No, I know which one you mean, and there was like 4 Arsenal players in the way, and I get why he was doing that because it didn't seem like the easiest of angles to try to take a shot. But it's almost like I'm calling for him to do the opposite of what Masouras did in the first leg, where Masouras should have squared it to El Arabi in the first half of the first leg to put it away, and instead he took the shot. Fortuna should have taken the shot, but
No, but I think it's the 47th minute where he does take the shot, doesn't he, Fortunis? It's the one where it's a long ball over the top. El Arabi heads it down. Fortunis picks it up. He's got 4 Arsenal players around him.
Oh, that decision, and he goes just wide. Does it go just wide?
He goes wide. But I'm thinking to myself, as an Olympiacos fan, I'd be absolutely raging that he didn't take a better shot at that, because that's a prime sort of opportunity for you to test a goalkeeper. I mean, when you look at how the game was played out in the first half, you're thinking to yourself, well, we're not really going to be getting into opportunities like this. We're not going to be getting into spaces like this for the remainder of the game. I just sort of thought to myself as I was watching that game, I was thinking, well, this is why Olympiacos aren't going to win this game, because they're not taking opportunities out of that. I mean, I'm watching it right now here. He is in such good space, and I can appreciate that there's 4 players around him. But it's a great ball over the top. David Luiz is doing David Luiz things. He falls to the ground, falls to Fortunis. he can bend it around the top corner or he can take it bottom left. He tries to go bottom left, and it's ultimately really, really wide. And with all due respect to Olympiacos, I saw that opportunity and I thought to myself, well, the reality is, and it very much hit me in the first leg as well. The reality is that had Olympiacos maybe if they had a bit more quality up front, this team could do some really good stuff, because ultimately I see the way that you guys play football and you're not scared to approach your oppositions. You're not scared to play football against the big dogs. And I watched you guys in the Champions League as well. You play some really good football at times, but it's the wastefulness up top, and similar to Arsenal as well. It's just not taking those chances. But then you score from the man who loves to score at the Emirates, El Arabi. Why don't you talk to me about the goal? Was it a typical El Arabi goal? It seemed like a typical El Arabi goal, getting the ball, skipping from one side to another, and then getting a bit of luck really on the shot. How did you feel after that goal went in 5 minutes into the second half?
Well, just to touch on what you said about maybe our lack of quality up front with regards to forwards, I think this is something we have all highlighted as Olympiacos fans, probably since we've lost Podence to Wolves. Like, he was the quality we had up front to make things happen and to do special things. Like, he's a special player, Podence. And I know, Aiden, Spurs are out. I'm kind of happy, but I'll get to that later. I think while El Arabi is a class player, you know me, I love Fortunis. I think I've said before, Fortunis should play as a 10. I think as a winger, he's a bit wasted on the wing. I don't think he quite has the speed. He has the technical quality, but it's just about his decision making on the wing. I just don't think it's quite his position. But I think that's our biggest problem since we've lost Podence, is that we just haven't got a proper winger who can do it for us every single game and take us to that next level, because we had that in Podence and we don't have that now. Bruma is very, very inconsistent. Like, he can do that maybe once every 3 games, but the other 2 games he's not there. He's very inconsistent. As I said to you last week, he's the B-Tech Nicola Pepe. He's essentially the B-Tech Nicola Pepe.
I was going to say he reminds me a lot of like Adama Traore as well, in the sense like he's very direct, but his end product is just, it's not really there.
No, and he's like one of our only wingers that has that sort of flair. Well, we certainly did, Aiden. He has that flair, but he just doesn't show enough of it. And then, I mean, I'll get on to the substitutes later, because I feel like that both him and Rangelovic came on, and I'll have comments about them in a bit. But yeah, the goal itself was excellent. Excellent goal. It's a very typical El Arabi goal in Europe and a typical El Arabi goal in general. And I was happy it went. And I think it took a slight deflection, actually.
Off Gabriel's back.
Yeah, and I think it briefly, I think there was a brief callback for VAR, but I think ultimately, I'm not quite sure why. But yeah, I think it was I would be surprised if they called it off for any reason. But yeah, it was a good goal, and I was happy when ahead. I just felt like even then, even 5 minutes into the second half we scoring, I just felt like it was still a little too late sort of thing.
But look, you scored that first goal in the first 5 minutes, and I'm thinking to myself on my sofa, here we go again. This is going to be a very, very painful second half with everything at us. And I got to the 55-minute stage, and I'm thinking to myself, well, these boys are shaken. These boys are shaken to the core. And look, Olympiacos will, the coaching staff, the players will know very well what happens to Arsenal when they're put in a situation like this. Ultimately, they crumble, and they did it again. The boys crumbled, and the first goal in itself was, for me, just showed how the game management was falling to pieces. The plan wasn't working. I mean, the plan worked perfectly fine in the first half. I don't know why they didn't just continue it on in the second half. It's not as if, I mean, again, with all due respect, it's not as if you guys aren't capable enough to deal with Olympiacos' attack. In the first half, we showed we're perfectly capable enough to play toe-to-toe with you guys, especially when you're coming to the Emirates knowing that you've got nothing to lose. So I was a little bit confused why we sat back, why we allowed you to get back into the game. But I was more confused leading up to your first to the goal, why it was that Arsenal decided to commit so many men forward. Because if you remember when just before the you guys got possession of the ball, it was Ceballos who ultimately lost the ball in midfield, in the center of midfield. And at that time, Ceballos is running forward. He's got Xhaka and Elneny with him as well, bombing down. And then there is a massive gap in the middle of the pitch, exploited perfectly. And again, I don't know whether Arteta just told them to go out there and just get that first goal as soon as possible, or whether it was they just got carried away with the motion. But that was a theme for me. Straight after you scored the first goal, Arteta made the substitution to bring on Partey and to bring on Odegaard. Those two were brought on because he could tell that this is a team that again is not capable of dealing with the type of pressure that Olympiacos are putting us under. And look, credit to you guys up until the 75th minute or so, throwing everything at us. We had a good few opportunities on the other side, but it certainly looked like you guys were going to be scoring a second goal very soon. And had it not been for the red card, I genuinely believe Olympiacos would have got a goal before the 80th minute, and it would have been a very, very nervy last 10 minutes, because Aubameyang didn't look like he wanted to score any goals in that game. He certainly didn't look like he was in the game, not really adding anything side, or I just think Aubameyang, his performance was very similar to the one in the first leg, where just isolating himself for no reason. But tell me, approaching the sort of the 75th, 80th minute, did you see another goal come in? And also talk me through the red card, because I think it was a really, really harsh red card. And I think after the red card, that sort of swung the momentum of the game.
I could certainly see one fairly soon after we scored the first goal. The way we pressed, we were so impressive, and I was really happy with how we did. And then, obviously, despite Partey and Odegaard coming on, I thought, that's a next level substitution you're making. Taking off Ceballos and bringing on Partey. Partey, in my opinion, I know he was exhausted after the Spurs game, but for me, I think Partey should start against us. Because he's a fantastic player, and he brought a bit more solidity to your midfield. I think despite that, though, we still had a couple of decent opportunities to maybe score. The Bar situation is a weird one, because I don't blame him for how the game ended up. I don't feel. It was in the latter stages of the game, and I feel like it was a hard ask for us to try score two, even if we'd scored the second. There's no guarantee we're scoring another one very, very late, deep into injury time. And so I agree with you. It was harsh, because it was strange. It was just weird, because I think he got booked initially, and then he threw the ball. He threw the ball. It hit Martinelli, and then the ref turned around like a proper school teacher and was like, "Right, you're off."
Yeah,
and I was disappointed, not disappointed in him, because it's not his fault. Like, whoever blames him for us going out is just as bad as who sent those horrible messages to Jose Sa after the first leg. But I'm disappointed, because it's not the first time he's kind of not lashed out, but there's been times in the league or in Europe where you can tell he's pissed. Like, he's really pissed off with either the opposing player or himself at not doing what he was set out to do, and it's sort of. This is kind of, I guess, in a way, this is kind of hopefully a way that teaches him you can't do that in a game, because some referees won't give it, but this referee did. While I think it's harsh, ultimately, you got to be careful in those situations, because if the referee genuinely, I don't think there wasn't any intent of lashing out at somebody in particular, but if the referee thinks that you are on the verge of doing that, then he has to take action. And I didn't want him to get sent off, but it happened. It didn't affect anything for me personally. Some may agree. Some people may think we could have come back from that if Bar hadn't been sent off. But I don't. believe so. We kept our shape anyway, even after we got sent off. When we went down to 10 men, like, we still kept our shape okay, and we saw the game out.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it was a very, very harsh red card. I did feel for him. I can imagine the frustration, you boys were throwing everything at us and nothing was ultimately coming to fruition. And to receive that red card was really the last straw. It was ultimately saying to Olympiacos, right, you're not going through to the next round. And look, despite you saying, you didn't think that you were going to score 2 goals, or you didn't think that you'd win the tie, I'll tell you now, as an Arsenal fan, I genuinely thought, there was a possibility that Olympiacos could grab 2 goals. When you're playing against Arsenal, when you're playing against that type of Arsenal, who are so nervous, who can't string together 2 simple passes because of the type of pressure that they're under, you have every chance in the world to try and score 2 goals. And especially on a game like tonight, where very much a mentality thing. And I go back to this time and time again with Arsenal. It does go back to the mentality thing. It does go back to whether these boys are man enough to see the game through to the end and to push and to ultimately dominate, despite knowing that your opposition is throwing everything at you. And we've got big problems in that department. There is a big job at Mikel's hand to try and change the mindset of these boys, so when they're put in that situation, very similar to the Spurs game in the last 10-15 minutes, absolutely bottling it. And had it not been for Gabriel's header effectively off the line, had it not been for the post saving us, we could have lost 2 points against Spurs. But look, that red card was a changing point. It did change the dynamics of the game a little bit, and Arsenal still, even right down to the last minute of the game, were giving everything to try and get a goal, but didn't in the end. And I think Aubameyang, for me, as wasteful as he was, I did feel a little bit sorry for him. I just didn't think that tonight was the night for him. But a player who Arsenal fans have been screaming for the last month to see, Gabby Martinelli, finally comes on and finally delivers the goods. And I don't mean, delivers the goods by, scores a goal or he gets an assist, but it
was the work ethic.
Not necessarily the work ethic, but it's the I'm trying to think of the right word. The prophecy came alive. We know that because before he got injured against Chelsea, that solo goal, all of his performances showed us that this was a special kid, someone with bags of talent, someone who was ultimately bound to make it in the Premier League. And then coming back from a long-term injury, having only played a few games, not really doing much in it, fan base getting really frustrated at Mikel, and then finally he comes on and finally he delivers a really good performance, because ultimately it's his run that causes Bar to make the foul, which then leads to the red card. And then there are other instances in the game, I think in the last 5-10 minutes, where he runs down the wing, slots it into Aubameyang, and then Aubameyang tries to flick it into the goal and he misses it. Then he tries to overhead kick it, and then let's not even mention the 1-on-1. And it's funny that you say that you expected Aubameyang to score that 1-on-1, because I was sitting there waiting for him to scuff it. And it very much seemed like Aubameyang's not necessarily his attitude, but something was weighing down on him, whether it be mentally, whether it was not necessarily physically, but there wasn't something right about the way that he was going about his game today, not getting into the right areas, picking up the ball, and his finishing being really rash and erratic. But that 1-on-1 for me just summed it up. That, look, we don't have the same Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang we had a couple seasons ago.
Last season that goes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Last season that goes in. And I don't know, ever since, and I hate to be that guy to jump on this bandwagon of, signing his contract has ultimately changed him and et cetera, et cetera. But I do genuinely believe that having signed that long-term contract, that final contract of his career, being at Arsenal, knowing very well that he might not potentially win a Premier League or a Champions League, is he in a relaxed mindset where he is sort of accepted the reality of it, and he doesn't have much to there's not much motivation, there's not much pressure, and I think that opportunity showed really that we don't have the right player, we don't have the same player we had a few seasons ago, and maybe it's time to pass the baton over to someone else. And I think Martinelli might be that person. As an Olympiacos fan, what do you think of Gabby Martinelli? Have you seen much of him? I mean, is there much talk about him in and around Greece?
Not so much around Greece, because if it was anything to do with us, then it would try go for him. But Olympiacos don't go for that kind of profile player, especially somebody who's worth the amount Martinelli is worth now. But yeah, I mean, I obviously, because I follow the Premier League fairly closely, being in the UK, Premier League's everywhere, always watching Match of the Day, trying to catch games whenever I can. I really rate Martinelli. He's such a talented player. And I think to have a player of like that coming through as a youth and is such an encouraging thing for any club, to have that sort of like, this guy's a prospect and he looks like he's actually going to do it. He looks like he's actually going to make that jump to a senior, like a senior player. He's going to play consistently for the first team. He loves the club, etc., etc. Like, you want that. You want that in your team. You need one or two players like Saka, like Martinelli, who know what it means to play for Arsenal. And if he can get the chance under Arteta, he there's every chance he's doing the right things to eventually replace players like Aubameyang at the club. Whether he has the same goal outage as Aubameyang did at his peak, that remains to be seen. He's still very young, but the potential is there. So to have a player like that in your team is exciting. It will be exciting for you, I'm sure, and for any Arsenal fan. So yeah, and he certainly, and like you said, he made a positive impact for you guys when he came on.
Yeah, the moment he came on, he did. And look, this is just a message to the fans, guys. We need to be patient with this guy. He's 19 years old. Arteta said it very clearly in his press conference the other day before the Olympiacos game. He will get his chance. He's making the decision to not rush him, to not play him game in, game out, because we don't want a repeat of what's happened to Reece Nelson. We don't want a repeat of what's happened to Joe Willock. We need to nurture this kid properly. We need to develop him one step at a time. There's no rushing. The next 2 years are going to be the most pivotal in his development. And I think, give him the right minutes at the right time. Against Olympiacos in the last 20 minutes is a good time to start him in a game like this. I would argue that maybe, maybe starting him against Olympiacos might have done him some good. But, he got some of his minutes. I think Arteta's answered some of his critics and has shown that this kid will come good. But let's talk about the conclusion of the game. Obviously, it ends 1-0. Olympiacos are out. Give me your man of the match. Who impressed you the most and why?
I gotta say, El Arabi. I think El Arabi for me is up there because obviously, like last week, he probably would have been my man of the match if it wasn't for Socrates, but because he scored this week as well, which is great. Consistently scoring in Europe again is what we need from him. I think I'm gonna give it to Jose Sarr because I think he proved his critics wrong. He proved all the Olympiacos fans who criticized him and his family on social media the previous week after having, admittedly a performance that you don't want to see from a player of his stature, but he's reassert this. I hope this is a turning point for him in terms of his consistency, because that's a huge thing to keep a clean sheet against you guys, despite going out. He had a great performance. He was fairly comfortable. He didn't look really under pressure too much. Maybe there was that one occasion against Pepe where he maybe shouldn't have gone out of his box to try and meet Pepe, and the ball nearly went in from there. But I think I will give it to Sarr. I think Socrates also was our best defender on the night as well. I was very happy with how Socrates did. But I think just for what it meant to keep a clean sheet in this game, I think I'm giving it to Jose Sarr.
Yeah. I think I heard as well that he attended a funeral of was it his grandmother?
Well, that's the whole thing. On the day of the first leg, his grandmother, it was his funeral, so he wasn't able to attend. And so people maybe reckon that might be related to why he didn't perform. I mean, he's in fairness, he's been fairly inconsistent the last couple of months anyway. Maybe that had something to do with it. But obviously, to lose anyone, if you're close to them, who you're related with, is a hard thing. Maybe that's why. And like I've said it already, but the abuse he received from Olympiacos fans is disgusting. And his wife came out and said, like, you know, my husband's done all of this for the club. How dare you come out? And I completely agree with her. Like the fans that criticise Jose Sa to the extent of going and messaging his family and harassing him and his family is disgraceful. Like that's when it goes beyond football, and that's when it shouldn't. These sort of things shouldn't happen. So I feel like he's just silenced his critics by keeping a clean sheet against you guys.
Yeah, and we have a very similar case with Granit Xhaka as well. So I can totally sympathise with Sarr. And look, yeah, like you say, he had a really, really good game today to keep a clean sheet and to ultimately keep Aubameyang, Pepe, and the likes quiet. My man of the match is going to go to an Arsenal player. Despite losing, I think Nicolas Pepe had an absolutely incredible game. Look, we weren't as impressive as we usually can be up front. We weren't deadly going forward. We controlled the game in the first half. It crumbled in the second half. Things picked up a little bit after the red card. But one consistent performer who I feel was intelligent and just did things that you expect of a footballer. And I'm going to give examples. So Pepe, for me, did everything that I wanted him to do and more. He put pressure in your...
There we go. You're muted now. Yeah, I can hear you. That was weird. You randomly go muted yourself.
2 seconds. I don't know what's happened here. This is very, very odd. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what happened. One of my wires just went loose.
It's fine. Nah, it's all good, man. It's fine.
Technical issues. But we're back. Sorry. Yeah. So as I was saying, Nicolas Pepe, for me, did everything that I want every Arsenal player to do, which is consistently... if there's one thing I appreciate about a footballer, it's not his ability on the ball, it's his abilities off the ball. And not even ability, but the right attitude, the right mindset, and the right enthusiasm. That's what I saw from Nicolas Pepe today. His defensive work off the ball, really, really good. Helping at the back, running up and down the wing, supporting the attacking play, getting into dangerous areas, causing problems on the right hand side. And often when we talk about Nicolas Pepe, we don't associate him with someone who plays so well on the right hand side. He's quite frustrating to watch when he plays on the right hand side. Stutters a little bit, slows down the momentum of the game. But against you guys, really, really good, really, really positive. Always trying to cut in and get into the box, linking up really well with Ceballos, just getting the ball into dangerous areas in the box. So for me, Nicolas Pepe, once again, has proved that he deserves to be a regular starter in the first team. But now we head into the quarterfinal stage. And I know you guys are obviously, out of the competition. It won't be very relevant to you, but I'd still like you to engage with me in this conversation about the quarterfinals. I want to have a quick look at who's made it into the quarterfinals, and I want to have a quick chat about what teams you feel like are going to be the favorites, because I think now you can sort of knuckle it down to two finalists.
It really starts to take shape now, certainly.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, absolutely. So the Champions League draw will happen tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and then followed by the Europa League at 12 o'clock. So Arsenal are into the quarterfinals. Zagreb, Granada, Roma, United, Slavia Prague, Villa, and Ajax. So out of those two for 8 teams. Of course, it's the quarterfinals. Out of those 8 teams, give me your 2 finalists who you could see if they avoid each other, obviously. And you don't have to say Arsenal because you're on an Arsenal show.
Well, I'll say United instead. No, just I think just one quick, a bit of pill to swallow to see teams like Dynamo Zagreb and Granada there, because it's Granada's first ever quarterfinal. So fair play to them. Like, no disrespect to either of them. It's just a shame that Olympiacos can't be there as well, because I feel like we've been at this stage so often, and I want to see us go to the next level and go to the last 8, and to see Granada first time ever do it, and I was like, oh, for goodness sake, if they can do it, then why can't we? But no, fair play to them completely. I mean, in all seriousness, I think you guys are one of the favourites, and also in all seriousness, as disappointed I am to see Manchester United there, Man United are also one of the favourites. So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't draw them tomorrow to see both of you face off in an all-English final. That's a genuine possibility at this stage.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but then I look around and some of the underdogs do shout out at me. Like, I genuinely believe Zagreb...
There's Ajax too.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to come on to them, but I do believe that Zagreb aren't good enough to get through to the semi-finals. I think Tottenham absolutely scuffed one today and just they chucked everything away.
There's no way the Spurs should lose with the team they have. There's no way.
No, absolutely not. And look, I think losing to us has ultimately nailed the final nails in their coffin.
However, though, I just want to quickly say one thing, because I wasn't aware of this until my friend Aidan, who hopefully is still watching, made me aware of this. Those 2 Tottenham fans you had on your stream early in the week who said that Olympiacos have no caliber. Well, isn't this a sweet thing for me? And I'm sorry for you guys, because quite frankly, from my dad, I normally commiserate with him when Spurs go out because he's a massive Spurs fan, and Spurs would always be a club I'd support if I had an English club. But this is the first time I'm going to celebrate Spurs going out, because to say that we as Olympiacos have no caliber is disrespectful, quite frankly. And
I mean, and look, man, like, to say the least.
You lost to a team who not only we can compete with and have beaten previously, but you couldn't beat. So what does that say about your team with world-class players like Harry Kane and Son in your team? What does that say about Tottenham Hotspur right now? So I don't normally gloat. I'm not one to gloat at all. But
gloat away. I've given you permission. Gloat away.
No one. Like, it's just, there's nothing wrong with saying one team's better than the other. That's fine. Spurs are a better team than Olympiacos, but it's when fans, especially Premier League fans, have a tendency of doing this, unfortunately, of just kind of completely writing off a team because they're like, they play in this league because it's a farmers league, this and that. And I'm just like, well, now this is what karma is, guys. So enjoy maybe not qualifying for Europe this season, unless you win the Carabao Cup, then you're in the Conference League. So good luck with that.
I doubt it. I very much doubt they will win the the League Cup against Man City. Yeah, I don't think they're not in a million years. But look, I was going to say, maybe a couple of seasons ago, I would tend to agree with the Tottenham fans to say the Europa League is a bit of a shoddy competition. Maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago. But as the seasons have gone by, the respect for the tournament I have for it, don't worry, I'm still here, is a lot more. Yeah, is a lot more in comparison to 4 or 5 seasons ago, because if you look at the quarterfinals, Arsenal, Dinamo Zagreb, bar Granada, Roma, United, Slavia Prague, Villarreal and Ajax, they are all Champions League quality teams. They've all been consistent Champions League performers in the group stages. We're not talking about teams from Bulgaria or anywhere like that. We're talking about pretty decent European opposition. So look, Tottenham are in the mud again, as they always tend to find themselves in. We're not going to talk about them anymore. But in terms of the quarterfinals, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. And
you should be.
To say that, maybe I'm being a little bit smug here when I say that, I woke up this morning expecting to just win this game and get through to the quarterfinals. But I was very much looking forward to the quarterfinal draw, because I think the quarterfinal draw will ultimately shape up or give a clearer direction of what the route is going to the finals. If Arsenal can avoid United, and even if they do draw United, I'm not as afraid as I might have been maybe a month ago, because the Arsenal that I've seen play of late, especially against Tottenham, I mean, tonight's game was a little bit different because we were 3-1 up on aggregate, but had it been 0-0 when we came to the Emirates, I reckon we still would have won that game pretty comfortably. The Arsenal that we see this year compared to last year is a very, very different Arsenal side. It has a lot more depth. It has a lot more, I think, attacking intelligence, footballing intelligence as well. And should we play Roma, United, Villarreal, I'll be a little bit concerned, but I think we can beat them on our day. But another team I think people are underestimating are Ajax, who beat Young Boys 5-0 on aggregate. And I really like Ajax as a footballing side. I've always liked the style of football that they play. I think, modern day football has originated from Netherlands, from teams like Ajax, PSV, and the rest of them. But if you look at their team, Sebastian Haller, who used to play for West Ham, Dusan Tadic, who used to play for Southampton, David Neres, Ryan Gravenberch, David Klaassen, who used to play for Everton. They've got a pretty Daley Blind, who used to play for United.
They've got a solid team. They've got a very solid team.
Tagliafico, really good player. Lisandro Martinez at the back as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what comes about in the quarterfinal draw tomorrow. And I think the first leg of the quarterfinals, I just want to quickly check. I know this is totally irrelevant to you, so I'm so sorry you have to be here as I talk about this.
It's fine. No, it's all good, man.
The first leg of the quarterfinals is on April the 8th. So about 2 weeks away, and I'll be very, very eager to watch that because that's the day after my birthday.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be too busy in the Greek Cup. Like, we don't want a Europe. Like, we don't want to be at the latter stages. Who wants that?
Wait, I mean, you guys are you're in the Greek Cup final now, aren't you? You won the semi-final.
We're in the semi-final. Yeah, we're in the semi-final.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, in fairness, I'm doing a stream with somebody tomorrow, looking at the Europa League draw. So. Yeah, it doesn't really. I still keep interest in it if and whenever we go out. It's still great, and like you said, I think this is maybe speaks more for me as an Olympiacos fan, but I've always valued the Europa League because I've always seen it as somewhere, especially in the last few years, as something we can actually compete in. Because realistically, getting to the Champions League round of 16 for us is not a given ever. It's a very much a luxury to get to the round of 16. We haven't done it since 2013-14, which is a long time in terms of football. So to go through to a reasonable stage in the Europa League is a good level for us, and that's where now I want to exceed that and go to the quarterfinals, and maybe with any luck push on further. That's what I want to see. Europa League is a good level for us, and I know some people might not want to hear that. They'll want to see Olympiacos competing in the Champions League, and I want that too. I want us to compete in the Champions League, but if we have to compete in the Europa League, that's not something that we should settle with. Like, it's a good tournament, the Europa League, especially with the introduction of the champions going to the Champions League. The value of that competition only grew because of that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll echo what I said at the beginning. I think you guys are a couple decent attacking players away from being a really decent footballing side. I looked at your starting 11 today, and I thought, these guys have a pretty good chance of causing some dent in our quarterfinal hopes. So, look, well done to you guys and I don't say this in a patronizing way. I genuinely do mean it. Like, well done for the performances that you put in the last two legs. I think the first leg ultimately let you down, but the second leg, you can keep your heads. You can leave the competition with your head high and, work towards obviously retaining. Are you guys retaining the league title?
Yeah, we're going to be retaining it. Well, if and when we win. Just to quickly touch on attacking talent again. I think, just to go back to the game very briefly, I think another turning point was when we brought the subs on. And I think we played Lazar Angelovic, who's not a right back. We played him at right back. We took off Thanasis Androutos. We brought him on. And I thought that was just such a big mistake, because the problem with Rangelovic, as I might have said to you before, his decision making is just all wrong. Like, it just, when you expect him to do something simple, he just overcomplicates it, and it just, nothing comes of it, and it's just a wasted chance for us. And I didn't think he had a great game. He hasn't been good for us for a very long time. I wonder if his days are numbered at the club. Pedro Martins really likes him, so probably not. And Bruma as well. When Bruma came on in replacement, I think it was of Masuras, he didn't do much for me. Like, unlike Pepe, who influenced the game. I know I compare them a lot, but I just feel like in terms of what they offer is similar. Maybe not on a different level. Pepe is different level to Bruma, so there's no comparison with that. But Bruma didn't impact the game as we wanted him to, and I felt like that hindered us maybe scoring a second goal as well, because the end product and the creativity wasn't there when it came to Bruma or Rangelovic. And we had a perfectly good right back in Kenny Lala, who was on the bench and didn't get brought on until like the 80-something minute and played at left back instead. So that's where I love Martins, and I think we set up fine, and I think he what he ultimately went out to do worked to a certain extent. I felt like substitutions were wrong, but what can you do? You know, and like you said, this has actually exceeded expectations for me, because I predicted that we would lose this game, and I expected us to perform but lose. And for us to come away with a win, I'm very heartened by that, and I'm proud of, like I said at the very beginning, I'm very proud of the team's effort, because it was a big ask, and we did. They showed they could do their absolute best, and it ultimately didn't work out, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, I see a progressing footballing side. I think if you guys, like I said, can nick a few good investments in and around Europe, there's plenty of places to look at. You know, Portugal, for example, with Benfica, who constantly produce young, amazing talents. You look at Netherlands as well with Ajax.
Well, there's France as well, because their TV license is still a mess. So players are worth nothing in France, and that's been a place where we've taken a lot of our players from the second tier, like Cameras from there, Bars from there, Lala most recently with some Strasbourg that we got for basically nothing. So if the market is still messed up there, that's a perfect opportunity for us to go get a really decent player for under €1 million or something. You know, I could certainly see us doing that in summer.
Yeah, you know, this summer's going to be interesting for all clubs, because it's not a typical type of summer where, you know, clubs are looking at your Jack Grealishes or players of that caliber, you know, wanting to spend 60, 70 mil on one player. It's going to be a transfer window where clubs all around the world are going to be very, very intelligent with their money. They're going to probably try and get young up and coming prospects. I think Arsenal are already looking at, you know, certain players from the Championship. Ivan Toney was linked from Brentford.
He's a talent, Ivan Toney. Yeah. He'd be great. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And you know, we already saw the number of talents that Brentford are already produce. Another club that just continue to produce one.
I hope they come up. I really hope Brentford come up, because they've got such a talented squad. I hope they don't get like raided for the moment if they come up in the Prem. I would hate that.
Well, this is it. They need to. Yeah, I mean, Brentford are another club. They remind me of Bournemouth, where just a very intelligently run football club that are just producing really good players, and who have a really decent manager as well, with a great way of playing football. They've got a decent squad as well, with Buemo and, you know, Ivan Toney, etc. Yeah, so I do hope that they come up, and I do hope that they get a fair crack at the Premier League.
And also pre-season. We're all going to get pre-season hopefully this year as well, which is a massive thing for all clubs. Yes. Like, it affects all clubs, so that's a big bonus. Yeah.
A massive bonus. And I think people downplay the impact that COVID has had, not only on Arsenal, but just every club. It's just shifted. The power dynamics have shifted. Teams like Arsenal and Liverpool way down the league table, 11 games lost, 8 games lost, etc. But there's a question here from Out and Out Gunners podcast. I'm going to end it with this question. He asks, for me, one player from Olympiacos you'd sign if you had to pick. It's a tough one, because if I'm looking at Arsenal's squad, I'm looking at positions like right back, centre mid, striker needing to be filled. You
could re-sign Socrates, but take him back.
Yeah, no, you can have
No.
him. You guys can have him. No, look, he's a very good defender. It's just unfortunate that we have so many centre backs that are squad, but he is a very, he's a rock solid defender. If I'm looking to sign someone, I'm probably gonna go for El Arabi. If I'm being honest, I think El Arabi is I think he's underrated. I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves.
Trust me, if he was younger, if he wasn't in his mid-30s, he would have gone. He would have gone last summer. If he was at, like, anywhere, like, even if he was on the wrong side of 30, even if he was 31, he would have gone to a bigger club. The fact that we've kept him and his production is ridiculous at his age is mind-boggling. He's the best striker we've had for about a decade since Kostas Mitroglou. He's absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, yeah, he's brilliant. Sorry, mate. You cut out. That's why I thought you stopped talking. I was just saying. I think he's a solid striker. I think he's a finisher. He's not only sort of a target man, but he's good on the ball as well. He's good at carrying the ball, and he's good at getting in good areas of the pitch as well. But now that you've told me he's in his mid-30s, I don't think I will want to sign him.
No, if I was to suggest one for you, I think you need a number 8, really, don't you? Proper number 8. I think Mady Camara was linked with you guys. As was Bar. So Camara would do you good. I think he's a very, very hard-working box-to-box midfielder. I think he'd be a good fit for you guys, especially next to a player like Partey. I think he'd do good for you guys.
You're right. No, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what Arsenal are missing right now. Someone who can play box to box, ultimately a clone of what Partey is, which is so difficult to come around in Europe. Yeah, I mean, he proved again today that he was working really, really hard with the likes of Villa and, feeding the ball to the guys at the front. From Arsenal. I mean, let's try and be realistic about it. Obviously, you're not going to get someone like Pepe or someone like Tierney, but if Olympiacos had the opportunity to sign someone and they had a budget of about 25-30 mil, who would you go for?
It's hard because the worth of some of your players is probably worth more than our entire squad put together. If I'm thinking realistically, we need a winger. I mean, but like you said, like if I'm thinking really, really unrealistically, then it would be someone like Nicola Pepe, because I feel like he is the next level version of Bruma.
We've got Willian.
That's the thing. I was going to just say a more realistic option, somebody we could theoretically maybe afford if we could like get him on a free transfer and pay the big wages that he wants. Yeah, I mean, Willian would be all right for us, I think. I think he'd be a decent player. He hasn't got quite the dynamism he had at Chelsea, but, you're not going to get that from somebody at his age. But, yeah, I'd take Willian for a couple of seasons, sure.
Well, you can have him.
Yeah, just I'll get in contact with Marinakis and just say, look, he's coming our way now. I'm just getting the deal done.
I was gonna say his wages might cost an arm and a leg, but he'll be a free transfer at least.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, we definitely need a proper winger, like a proper player who can just cut inside. I know he's not necessarily that, but I feel like Willian would definitely bring more than the likes of Pepe and the likes of certainly the likes of Ranjevic. Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, look, good luck to you guys in the summer transfer window. It's going to be an interesting one for Olympiacos, for Arsenal, and for most clubs. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to end it there. Look, thank you very much, Steve, for coming on the show. It's been another fruitful discussion. Being able to make sense of it all. Obviously, unfortunately, it wasn't the day for you guys where you could get one over at us again. We've finally broken the curse. We finally beaten Olympiacos, and we finally progressed into the quarterfinals of the Europa League. I just wanted to say a massive thank you for coming onto the show, taking the time out. Let the people know where they can find you, what you do, and if they want to get in contact with you, how they can do that.
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, the other positive I can take from this, other than the fact we won, is that the record still stands. It's 6 wins, 6 losses, and that's great. It's still even, guys. It's not over yet. Like the rivalry still continues. Although your goal difference is better. Absolutely. Your goal difference was always better. No, you can find me at Steve Conturu on Twitter and on Instagram. If you want to get in contact with me to do anything football related, I'm more than up for a lot of things. So just DM me on, probably Twitter's a better thing to DM me on than Insta. And then also please follow Hellas Football, because we do some fantastic content when it comes to Greek football in English. We cover a wide variety of teams in the Greek Super League, in the Greek Super League 2, in Europe, with teams playing in European competition and with Greeks playing abroad. And we talk about the national team. And we obviously, as I've said last week, we have our podcast on Spotify, on Apple Music, and on Anchor as well. And it's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything Greek football. So please have a look at that. It's a good bunch of guys. It's a good laugh every week. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on again. It's been great chatting with you. And see you next season in the Champions League group stage.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, if we can.
Imagine. It's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen. Maybe
it
not
usually does.
Season,
I mean, back in the days when we used to be in the Champions League, back in the days when TVs were black and white, back in the days, we did used to get you guys in the Champions League quite often, didn't we? In the group stages and in the last 16 as well. So, who knows? Who knows what will happen?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the very first time we got you guys, that was the only time we both progressed to the knockout stages, because it's either been, for the most part, it's been you coming second and then us sort of just finishing and having to settle with third. But that first time we ever played each other, I think you finished top and we finished runners up. So hopefully next time we meet, that happens again. I don't care where I finish, as long as it's in to the next round of the Champions League, so...
Fingers crossed. We'll just have to wait and see what time brings us. But once again, thank you very, very much, Steve, for coming on the show. And I'll link all of Steven's social medias, all the work that he does below in the description. As he says, do follow Hell as Footy. I always appreciate, footballing outlets who are trying to get the word out there, who are trying to spread football globally, whether it be in Greece or whether it be in England. And any for a small upcoming footballing sort of establishment location is always good for the sport, and it's always good for us fans as well. And you can find us as well. I mean, this is a good opportunity to plug ourselves, because this is the Arsenal Therapy podcast. Thank you very much, guys, for all of the support, all of the continued kind messages. It's really much appreciated. It's good to see that you guys are enjoying the upcoming shows. As you know, we do release an episode after every single game. It's an opportunity for you to join me to make sense of all the madness that happens during an Arsenal game. But do leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's really highly appreciated. And also let me know what you're enjoying about the show, whether you agree or disagree with my opinions. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at GunnerSince96. And remember, we are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify as well as all the other mainstream podcasting sites. I will be back again for Arsenal versus West Ham, which is on Sunday. So we will be releasing a post-match reaction podcast then. But until then, stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.